Hey everyone, Doug here from 2 Plus Tough, and I am just sitting and chilling. Welcome to day 2 of Army in a Week. So if you didn't watch yesterday's live stream, basically this entire week I'm taking to really crank out some painting to get a 2,000 point Stormcast army done. The reason for this is because I love reviewing lore so much on this channel, but GW releases have been coming out so fast and heavy that I just have no time to get my own hobby done. So in this lull between Slaanesh Battletome and the Forbidden Power book coming out, or the set, I should say, not book, but the set Forbidden Power coming out, I'm going to really crank at an army and try to get as much painted as possible. So thank you all for joining me. It's just going to be me, hobbying, hanging out. So if you have models, go ahead, bust them out, and we're going to start painting together. So much like Pocahontas, I paint with all the colors of the wind. Let me move my light here. A good setup there. That looks good. Make it a little level there. Hello, everyone. Tell me if you can see and hear me okay. And let me see where to put. Here we go. I'm going to do what I did yesterday and have some music going on in the background. It's going to be just a minute to get set up. How's everyone doing? Michael's got 10 minutes left in his lunch. Sorry, dude. You could just, I don't know if you can listen in when you're working. Can see and hear. Okay, sweet. Thank you so much. And let's get some chill tunes going. Everyone tell me if you can hear the music but not be overpowered by it. In a little bit. It's lo-fi, so it kind of takes a while to like build up, you know. It's got to start at maximum chill. There we go. So in yesterday's live stream, we basically finished 2 Cellstar Balllistas. They're almost done. By almost, I mean I have to get the handles on like the levers to pull. And that's honestly, that is just about it. That's all I want to do for them. And then obviously the basing to make them match everything else. So yeah. Successful Geek says aloha. Hello, hello. So let's finish these things real quick here. Okay. Now, here's the best part of the show is watching Doug not be able to find paints that he just had in his hands 10 seconds ago. Let's see. A little bit of Screamer Pink. Okay. So, I gotta say, I did mention the other day that I wasn't super enthused about Forbidden Power, simply because there wasn't a whole lot of build-up and all that kind of stuff like that. I gotta say, that all changed today with the lore preview that came out on Warhammer community page, where I got my brushes down here, one sec. It's almost like I wasn't ready for this at all. Where they kind of went into a little bit more of the backstory of like what the nature of these vaults are, and basically the idea is that Teclis made a really good, like, it's like a magical like hub of enlightenment. Like people gain knowledge when they're near it, and Sigmar took that technology and inverted it so that it would conceal things, and then use that as his system to hide all these artifacts. So it's just like a super screw you way of reverse engineering someone else's tech, and I thought that was legit. It also gives them a reason of why like Teclis doesn't want to hang out with Sigmar and why we haven't seen him. They're mad. I think all the drama of the gods angle I think is a cool one. Opa. Cool, chat's filling up. Let's see, Hugh, what's up, Doug? How are you doing right now? I'm doing well. doing well. Also, this is Hugh from Long Beach. Hello, Hugh. Let's see. Agnes, hello, hello. I'm glad you enjoyed the Bob Ross picture. Can't wait to see your army against Jack's shootcast. You know, honestly, he's looking at retiring the shootcast. We've had a few talks about that. Well, not a few talks. He's been thinking about it quite a bit. So basically, if you don't know, I've known this pretty much since the first conversation I had with him, is that he really loves Slaanesh. He's actually had a Slaanesh army sitting in the wait for a battle tome for quite some time. So he is all in. He's cranking out some work. He's trying his first list tonight because he got his Keeper of Secrets, plural, built. So he's going to be playing a game here in about an hour, and I'm so excited to hear about how it goes. I want him to be excited for what the army does, for sure. Let's see. Kane says, I'm still not jazzed by how they handled the release, but I do like what they gave us today. Finally, Techless is coming into play. Yeah, I mean, we have like the consequences of Techless with the Deepkin. That's kind of their whole shtick, right? That they're like the abandoned child of Techless. But you're right, he hasn't been a real player. And he should be, because he's a cool guy. He was my favorite character back when I played High Elves in the Old World. Now I'm actually doing the center of the robe, this exact same color. So while it's on the palette, let's just go ahead and crank that. Screamer Pink is one of those paints. I just think it's fantastic. Let's see. Loon Curse booklet was an excellent read. Sweet. I know Shu on Rerolling Ones, or maybe it was Brent, I'm not sure. One of those two has that booklet, and they had told me that I can have access to it. So at some point I would like to. I was actually really excited to learn about the Carrion Empire, like get that book read, but then I actually read it, and there was hardly enough there for a video. There wasn't a whole lot going on. It wasn't a very deep story. It was just a little narrative, something to have those two forces fight, but it wasn't like a very interesting thing. So, but I'm glad the Loon Curse one sounds good. Let's see. They had a really cool. Hold on a second. Hugh, hey Doug, do you know about Warhammer 40k? Are you asking if I know the lore very well? I mean, I know that it exists. Yes. No, I know quite a bit about 40k lore. Just several years of. I read their books quite a bit. It's just not something I ever wanted to do videos on, but yeah. Let's see. They had a really cool story about Sylvaneth going up against Slaaneshi Warlord. I can see Shu and Jack representing that on the table. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're actually... Everyone's kind of in high gear right now for Rerolling Ones because Brent's been really championing the Fire Slayers for their channel. And... oh, what else? Jack's all in on Slaanesh. Shu is kind of all over the place. Like, he has Sylvaneth. He's very excited for the book, but obviously it's not coming out quite yet. The last battle report with Skaven I thought was awesome. It was actually, if you haven't seen it, go check out Rerolling Ones and watch their last battle report, because it comes down to the absolute wire. There are 2 models left on the table, and those are the best kinds of games. When anyone can win going into turn 5. Oh, such cool stuff. let's see. Pop says, so what you're saying is more elves are on the way? I would certainly hope so. Plus they revealed that lion-looking thing for the next edition of Warhammer Underworlds, or next wave. And that looks like it could certainly be tamed by an elf. Just has that look to it, you know? So I think there's certainly a good chance of an elf release sometime. Personally, I'd like a little bit more Dwarven support, but I guess there's a lot of elf models that haven't been addressed. Oop, that frankly need a home. So I'll give them that. William, Doug, you inspired me to put models together, and will I play Total War Warhammer 2? Okay, got some models together. That's awesome. Thank you for writing in. It's quite a bit of fun. I always enjoy the... You know, I've played a little bit of Total War after I started streaming it for a little bit, but it's just... I'm not a video game YouTuber. I'm going to be super honest. In terms of like being good at games, I'm not a very good video game player. I really prefer like open world, that kind of stuff, but like Skyrim and Fallout and those kinds of games. So doing the live stream stuff, it just wasn't my forte, and that's okay. I'll still do it sometimes. Let's see. Kenzie says they go in depth about the history of this area and Realm of Metal, like a mini battle tome. That's cool. Sam Cook, if you dedicate yourself wholly to one chaos god, which one? Ooh. Probably Nurgle. Probably Nurgle. I don't have a fantastic reason for that. I just really like Nurgle, and I don't get grossed out. Worked in healthcare for several years. Saw some stuff I can't unsee, but none of it made me gag. And I think that makes me qualified. Let's see. Phoenix Kelly, what is your favorite Chaos champion? As far as models go, ooh. I really like the Slaughter Priest that everyone got with that magazine a while ago, where he has like a ball and chain in his hand. Oh, and also the what is he? He's not the Bloodstoker. He is the hero who like basically carries a giant anvil as a weapon. That guy is cool. Let's see. Okay. Lion Ranger Pokemon. Yep. So Bill Wilson. 2+ up. The seminar, they confirmed each Grand Alliance is getting at least one more tome. What do you think the death one will be? Given they have nothing to update. Lots of rumor engines are deathy lately. Well, did I skip paying this guy? No, I didn't. I hit it with the side of the bush. I think the biggest contenders, for my opinion, are Soul Blight being a standalone faction. Because technically, like, even though the Vargeist kit is in a lot of things, the Vargeists themselves are not anywhere, really. Like, they're in Legions of Gash, but they could have a lot more flavor somewhere else. That's probably my if I'm being trying to actually guess what it is. That's what I would say. Put my money on. Or it could just be something totally new and different. If I had the reins that can do anything, I would make a human faction of necromancers, like in the book Nagash Undying King. People who, there's other races that use death magic, but they may or may not worship Nagash as deity. And honestly, that's what I want. I don't want an entire Grand Alliance to revolve around one model. Nagash is cool. He is a cool character, but I don't want another Nighthaunt situation where it's like, Nighthaunt are great, but they're better as Legions of Nagash, No, I want this army to be a standalone thing. And be better as a standalone thing. Okay. Get back to the chat in just 1 second. I'm just wrapping up this one guy. Okay. Caleb, question. In your opinion, what is the most hardcore / tough as nails faction, and why is it free people? Oh my goodness. Hardcore. Well, it's hardcore because you don't have all the tools to win the game. So if you win the game, you are in fact very hardcore. They do good. I mean, they're really, really good at securing a specific place. You know what I mean? Like take and hold type stuff. It's when they have to start splitting their forces and cover all over the board that things kind of fall apart, from my experience. Which is limited, I will say that. Dade, question, how would you like to see Dispossessed handled? I want Dispossessed to be rolled into KO. They have the ground troops. A lot of their stuff that they have left looks very techy and steampunky. Just bring them in. The KO are awesome, and I love them. I enjoyed painting them. I'm just not a huge fan of those armies that have such a cripplingly small model range. Get a few more options. You can give them unique allegiance abilities like other books do. But yeah. That's my hot take. Let's see. Legions of Nagash version 2. Well, I think the goal, Kenzie, is to update all the books. I mean, frankly, I would like to see Legions of Nagash rewritten because I don't like the way it works. I think it creates bad play experiences that are not fun. That's me, and I know a lot of people love it, so I'll just leave that there. But I think the focus is on creating new books or revitalizing older battle tomes or creating new factions, that kind of stuff. So I'd be interested what comes out. Okay. Omniphage, question. How satisfied would you be with the Firestorm or Firestorm Plus for Duarden? Come to mind with the new allegiance options and malign sorcery electric boogaloo. How satisfied would you be with the Firestorm or Firestorm Plus? I'm not sure I understand that question. You mean like the rules from Firestorm? I don't really know them that well, to be honest with you. Sorry. Let's see. The initial coat went a lot lighter than I thought meant it to. All right. Let's see. Dispossessed will be the new death faction, the repossessed. I love it. Jack says, off work, what are we talking about? We're just chatting about nothing, really. We're taking wild pot shots at what the new death faction might be. And just answering random questions whilst we paint. And I'm just working on some Ballista crew for anyone who's just joining us. Yeah. Let's see. Hugh, a fan-made Chaos God character, has 2 types of lesser demons. 1 type lesser demon is wicked. Darkness, human-like angel is second foot soldier. Cool. I like it. Ballistas. So 2000 and late. Whatever. Someone's got to fill that void to keep shooting alive locally. That's a joke. I have no intention of doing the shoot cast. I'm actually working towards the cleansing phalanx. Just a big wall of stormcast that are just hard to shove through. That's my working goal, at least. These are just, honestly, these ballistas are really just point fillers. If I am honest with you. Let's see here. Build. Next destruction tome. Ogres or orcs? Ooh, that's tough. Yeah, so would I want an ogre tome next or an Iron Jaws one? Because that's really, well, I guess Bone Splitters are also there too. Probably ogres, to be honest with you. Give me a different flavor of destruction that's not green, and then we can go back and fix the other ones. That'd be my vote. Cody the Bear. Hey Doug, I made it back to America and I got the playmat just fine. Thanks for working on that. Hey, you're very welcome. Happy to make that work for you, man. Let's see. Got these guys done. I think we're ready to bust out the gold trim here. Yeah, I'll do gold trim. Actually, I'll do just a tiny bit. So I just do a little bit of Nuln Oil in the creases of the robes and stuff like that, just to make it pop a little bit more with the Ulthuan Gray. Just a smidge. Let's see. Hope Gutbusters. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about if they were to roll. What are they? Beastclaw Raiders. I don't know why I was having trouble thinking of that name. Beastclaw Raiders back into Gutbusters and making a unified book. I think that'd be cool. I think it would not make them, it wouldn't make them suddenly amazing if they had that many options. You know, it's still a pretty limited range and still is going to have trouble on scenario games, but it's just options, right? It's just, they just have no options. Or limited options, I should say, limited. It's just, yeah, it's really rough right now for Beasts of Chaos. If you don't know the channel, Halo Twitch is a YouTuber and obviously a Twitch streamer who did a fantastic job of breaking down some of the problems, but honestly, a lot of it just comes to is they just have so few models and they don't have amazing ways of dislodging enemies that wind up on objectives. And that's pretty much what it comes down to. Let's see. Hugh says, yeah, Doug, my fan-made Chaos God character. Hugh, the Great Darkness Emperor's lore needs more things add in. Can you try and make a Battle of the Burning Skies video? Yeah, I can think about that. Honestly, there's just not a lot we know about it. I mean, it was a battle. As far as I can remember, we don't know exactly where it was. I don't know. I'll think about that. Let me see what I can dig up. No shoot cast, shootout at high noon. What a letdown. Yeah, that would be... So if me and Jack both had shoot cast, we played against each other, it really is whoever drops first, I mean, like, brings down all the guns first, is probably going to lose. So you're kind of just waiting each other out for that. But, yeah, I don't know. It'd be kind of like in a Western if, they had like the, the hand over the gun and they zoom in on people's squinting eyes, but it just kind of kept doing that for 2 hours. That's kind of sums up what that game would be like. Just a whole lot of just like, I dare you to move. Let's see. Make the kitties beast battle line for Beast Claw Raiders. See, my problem with that is that means keeping the kitties because they are fine cast. And that makes me sad. But I do think that I think an equivalent kit, like we have the Griffhounds and Stormcasts and all that stuff like that. I think that would be a great idea. What I'd really like them to do for Gutbusters and mostly for Beast Claw Raiders, my idea was give them special rules that, like, as an allegiance ability, that when it comes to counting objectives, they count as more models. So, like, these Mournfang count as 2 models each for the purposes of objectives. Okay, well, that means your 4 model unit went up to 8 models in terms of counting objectives. I think that would be a nice boost, at least, if they kind of did that and upped their ability to remove enemy models a little bit. All but the biggest of hordes would have a chance of being dislodged, so that's kind of a cool thing. Let's see. This guy here. Got like some kind of golden sigil on him. Super happy that with the set that I got from the Stormcast lot that I bought, it had both kinds of ballistas, the Soul War set and also the other one. So I have some, at least, variety in my weapon crews. I think that's kind of nice. I hate when you have a bunch of models that look exactly the same. I don't know. I'll keep them. There's no reason to get rid of them by any stretch. It's just, I'll see after the new General's Handbook if I feel like ballistas get to the point where there's not this, I don't know, feel badsies surrounding them because they're so freaking points efficient right now when they are. Maybe I'll bust them out. I don't know. Let's see. Oh. Omniphage clarification. Firestorm factions were a midpoint between Grand Alliances and individual factions. Yes. So you're asking about doing Firestorm alliances, but like all the time? I'd be down for that as long as they were very well defined. If they made a book that was just like, hey everybody, here's a bunch of cities from all over the mortal realms, and then in that book, like that, in that, battle tome, I don't know, survivor cities or whatever like that. When in that book, they just had a whole bunch of allegiance abilities for like, this is what things are like in Hammerhall actually, and this is the units that can be used, and and kind of built a army of rules based off of that. I'd be happy with that for sure. I think that it would require a whole lot of FAQs and things like that when it came to rules interactions for allies and junk, but yeah, I think it would be really, really cool. For those of you who haven't seen the Firestorm stuff, basically what they said is like, here's some rules, and this is the pools you can draw from. So like one city was like, you can take Fire Slayers and you can take Free People, and another city was like, you can take Dispossessed, but you can't take Fire Slayers, and all this kind of stuff. So it kind of just like, I don't know, broke up. It made army rules, allegiance abilities from multiple types of factions and that kind of stuff. And I thought that was cool. Let's see. What if when they charge on an objective, they could force their opponents to move off of it? That'd be cool. Yeah. Okay. Sweet. Coming along. John Blake says, Doug. What is up, my friend? Okay. Marty, is this another army? Yep. Yeah, I decided it was ridiculous for as much as I paint to not have a fully painted army because I keep trading and selling things away like an idiot. And so Stormcast are an army that are relatively easy, at least on the easier side I would say, to get fully painted and ready. So I had a bunch of them from a hobby lot that I bought a while back, and Celestial Vindicators were a paint scheme that always stuck out to me. I wanted to do more in the way of Vanguard Chamber stuff, which actually, fun fact, I scooped up a sweet deal online today to get some Vanguard, but I will save that for a hobby haul video in the future when they arrive, and I can unbox them with everybody. But yeah, basically, I really like Vanguard stuff, and this set was for sale by a local gentleman who, my understanding was, and I know he's a huge 40k player. I think he got into AOS with Soul Wars. He bought a couple sets, at least of the Stormcast side, and I think he just didn't have time. I remember him having posts saying he had fun, but I just don't think he had time. He is a local store owner and is in the big 40k tournament scene out here. We actually have a huge 40k tournament scene up in Seattle area. And yeah, you just, you like that more, which is totally fair. And sold off the Stormcast at a screaming deal, and I was like, yes, please. So yeah. So it's basically, it's like 2 sets of Soul Wars, of the Stormcast have specifically. 20 Judicators, and they're like really nicely built. And then the Celestin Prime, and I think one of the like Tempest of Souls, like the smaller set, because there was, maybe not, maybe that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. And a few other minor things here and there. Also a Celestin Prime, which I'm very excited about building, or painting, I mean. And he might be next. He might be my reward for cranking these guys out. Let's see. Democles deep striking ballista from a Zir into position and sniping off here off board with rapid fire. Goodness is so very satisfying. Yeah, that's the goal. For sure. Yeah, but so I threw together like a 2,000 point list with what I own. Right, because I didn't want to like break my back, go out and then buy more stuff. And so it ended up being a cleansing phalanx and then a whole bunch of shooting behind it. So that way the phalanx acts as a big wall. It's 1 drop, but 4 units. So that kind of lets me put more stuff in the sky, and then a whole bunch of, 2 ballistas in the sky for that exact plan. Let's see. Okay, I think I missed much here. Let's see. Cody the Bear, you ever spend an hour smoothing out troll bots? Hashtag troll herd. No, I have not, thankfully. But those models are so pretty. That's one where, like, if I ever just wanted to spend a lot of time on one model, I would just absolutely just go buy a Trog Boss or something like that. Those models just look brilliant. Okay, got 2 done. Kind of just got here. Mind showing off your ballistas? Yeah, right here. They kept the teal of the Celestial Vindicators, but I kept them very minimal. Like I said, this is not a unit I plan on using a ton, because shooting is not really my thing. But yeah, I did the basic highlights for them. When I'm done, well, this weekend, regardless, I'm going to bust out my light box and take a whole bunch of pictures of stuff, so people can see the progress we made. But basically, yeah, I just did the core body, I guess you could say, of the ballista is that same teal with some white accents to match the shoulder pads, and the rest of it is gold with gray on the wood legs. Brown on the wood legs. So yeah, but I will take full pictures once everything's based. And honestly, that's something. As I was wrapping up the live show last night, it occurred to me that I haven't. I may have said this last night, actually, as I was ending the show. It's been so long since I had truly done models, and by that I mean I hate basing. And so, I don't know. I got kind of bummed at myself of like, why do I keep trading stuff away? Like, I miss out on the hobby so much because I don't have a fully done army, so I don't know. But rather than saying, committing to one army, my new new rule for myself, and I think this is pretty doable, even for me. Is I don't sell an army until I already have 2,000 points of the next thing painted. I think that's very doable, and I think very reasonable. Let's see. Love squigs. Okay, it's cool. See, we're talking about Deepkin a little bit. That's cool. Let's see, Swashbuccaneer. Yeah, you're looking for a new army. Deepkin are a cool thing. For sure. I have a video going out tomorrow morning because I didn't know at the beginning of the week that I was going to be able to get it done, but yeah, I got some Deepkin to be painting up here pretty soon. Not for myself, but for someone else, and I'm kind of excited about it. They're cool looking models. I don't want a whole army of them, but there are some pretty good looking models, and they're fairly low model count. I mean, they're more on the elite side than they're not for sure, especially if you go Eels. If you go Eels, are uber elite. But let's see. Hugh says, okay, I'm going to go now, so I will watch your future live videos. Yeah, take it easy, my friend. I fell behind the chat here. Sorry, everybody, if I missed your question. If I missed your question, go ahead and re-ask it, and I will catch it. I got caught up in the details. Although I'm just now realizing that, like, these dudes, they're not, they don't have arm armor. So I'm actually going to look that up online here in a second, because like their upper arms is just skin. So I was like, oh, I didn't realize that. Would not have wasted time on the teal building that up. That's all right. Democles, me and a friend group all have one, if large, Stormcast, or two, or even three decent armies, and we play each other's and upkeep our own, that we may all have access to a good variety of painted armies. That's sweet. That's kind of what, well, my favorite enablers over on Rerolling Ones, that's kind of what we do too, in terms of like Shu and Jack in particular own several armies, and we're all in the progress of getting everything painted so that we can have a nice pool of stuff to pull from for battle reports and stuff. And Jack is about to go play his first game with the new Slanesh, because he had them all built in record time, which is awesome. So good luck to you, sir. I want to hear all the, give me the deets. Tweet the deets later, as the youths say. But yeah. I'm excited to see how Slanesh pans out. It just seems like everything I wanted Beast of Chaos to be, which is just ridiculous speed, but the difference is that once it gets there, I feel like Slanesh has more punch. Whereas Beast of Chaos, we're like, well, we have a few debuffs to armor, which is great, and Bestigors. I was like, oh, okay. That's assuming you didn't want to go like full crazy man on some Zangor units. Let's see. Let's see. Bob Jones, what do you think of these Slaanesh rules? Seems to have made the rules and lore pair beautifully. If they keep that theme up, what army excites you? Well, first of all, I'll answer your first question. So what do I think of Slaanesh rules? I think they look fantastic. I think more than any other Chaos God book, the way that they approach depravity points, like their summoning mechanic, is just awesome. Like, I just think it's awesome. It just, all parts of that book are focused, are mindful of the fact that, like, you want depravity points, right? Like, it's an army just like in the lore where they feed off of pain, both giving and receiving. You as a player do that as well, because you're either winning by killing stuff or being hurt. I don't just mean the literal way depravity points work. I mean, like, you as a player putting your army in weird positions to get them. Like, it causes you and reinforces the idea that you can play weird and what might seem non-tactical in order to get those depravity points. So I think that's cool. I think it's a super legit set of rules. And the flavor within that is that they gave you all different ways to achieve them. So, like, if you're not familiar, the different ways of getting depravity points. Hold on one second. In terms of, get some water there. Okay. Which host you take, because if you take, like, for example, the invaders, you get depravity points for being in your opponent's area, that kind of stuff. Like, the way that you can thematically choose how you achieve depravity points is really, really cool. I don't know. I think the book was a slam dunk in terms of bringing lore to the table. I know people are upset about the lack of mortals. I get that. I got nothing to say for it. Paint this, guys. Kind of looks like an astral compass. I don't think these guys have that rule. And just got his helmet left. As far as, like, looking at that, what makes me more excited? Certainly free people. I've said many times, it's well documented that I think free people is the most important battle tome to come out at some point, because we relate to those characters, and so giving me ways of exploring the lore of the realms on my own terms and that kind of stuff, I think it's necessary and exciting. Oh, show. TJ, does anyone know when the contrast paints will be released? I think it's next month. But I'm not sure when. Rerolling once, thanks for the shout out. Shoo, yeah. These guys are pretty much done with all the basing. That's sweet. Let's see. Might as well put the base coat down for the skin. Give me just a moment. Aha. That one was not as hard to find as it usually is. We have Bugman's Glow for the skin base. It did turn into Battletome Zangors. Absolutely it did. Let's see. If only you could tell us when Sisters are coming out. I know nothing. When I first got onto the so if you don't know, I'm part of GW's, like I get preview copies to review stuff, and you know, for me it's not so much as like with other channels they dive straight into the book before they really had a chance to digest it. For me, I take that stuff and I just work ahead to make lore videos so I can get them out faster. So I don't make a big deal out of it. But when I first started that program, they were sending me all kinds of 40k stuff too. I got Speed Freaks and Blackstone Fortress, and I was like, I even emailed them. I was like, I have no context for any of this stuff or use for it. Like, I don't know what you want me to do with this. I play Age of Sigmar. You got any Age of Sigmar? And that was during that weird lull period where there was I was like after second edition dropped, but there was nothing yet coming out for AOS, and I was just like, thank you. Let's see. Dry brushing an entire shipwreck sucks. Are you doing Adrian, did you settle on Deepkin as an army? I haven't been to the local store on game night. I don't know. We'll see how I feel this week. If I get enough done between tonight and tomorrow, I think maybe I'll go to game night. We'll see. Yep. Okay, cool. Deepkin are legit. Only played against them a handful of times. And that time it was... He did about 50-50 with Eels and Namarti. It was good. It wasn't a full hardcore competitive Eel list. It's tough, because like sometimes... I hate it when one design of an army is just really, really good. And the reason I say that is not because I hate competitive armies, that kind of stuff. It's because like I look at that and I'm like, oh man, an all-ear army is amazing because I want those models so bad. But of course, you take an all-eel army and people are like, oh, you're that kind of competitive guy. I don't know. And plus, part of the problem is they are legitimately good. So even if you take the all-eel force just to be thematic, you can still inadvertently kick someone's teeth in. You know, one thing I will say is that the doesn't show up super well on camera, but with the Soul Wars models, I find, and I said this before with the shoulder pads last night, some of the detail just isn't there, just not deep enough. Because like the rest of this model, everything's primed fine, but his face just doesn't have a lot of like actual depth to it. I don't know. I mean, there's some of the shoulder pads on not these models, but some of the ones I finished basing last night. Like it is legitimately hard to pick out the shoulder pads because they're almost non-existent. Whereas this lady, yeah, her face is just fine. Let's see. Can't wait for you guys to invite. Can't wait for you guys to invite players to CE. Play with you guys. I'm not sure I understand Zeku. TJ Nuts, when I was streaming video games on Twitch, I would get sent game keys from devs all the time and would and at points just did giveaways. Yeah. I used to do Battletome raffles with the Patreon thing, but Patreon changed their rules to where you can't do raffles anymore because in some states in the U.S. it's considered a form of like lottery gambling, and so they shut the whole thing down. So it's a bummer, but yeah, I might just do giveaways. I can do giveaways. Let's see. So thoughts on Flesh Eater Courts in current meta, particularly the Terrorgeist. My thoughts? Ooh. Only played against him a few times. They are incredibly aggressive. I don't know. I mean, I lost 1 and won 1 against them. I'm trying to think if I played more than 2 games. It depends. It depends on what kind of Flesh Eater Courts you're talking about. Because if you're talking about Gristlegore, that is a specific subset of Flesh Eater Courts. I think that one needs some attention. They actually joked about it on one of the live streams for GW on their Twitch channel. So I know that they know that it's really, really good, and it's kind of suffocating. It's just a matter of how long it takes for the fix to come. I don't know. As far as Terrorgeist goes, I like the Terrorgeist. I wish there was a reason to take a zombie dragon. You know, he's just kind of just a great obvious choice. So I don't know. Bob Jones, ruling 1. What army do you want to fight the new Slaanesh first? Adrian, yeah, you're the Flesh Eater Courts I lost to, but I believe I won one at an event. Let's see. Yeah, Zaki, we are in the greater Seattle area, kind of spread abroad to and fro. So if you're out in the area, come on out. Let's see. So what do I need to do now? Gonna do a wash of Auriculan Flesh Shade once the skin's dry. And oh, I missed a little bit of spot here on his tool. And hers. Let's see what else we got going on. TJ, I'm working on starting a Nurgle army, so I hope the Pus-Laden guy is against the Slaanesh for the first big battle. Nice. Sean asks, Dougie coming down to Dark Tower on the 1st. Ooh, I completely forgot to ask my wife about that. I have no idea. I'm gonna give you a firm try. And that is the best that I can do. It's a lot to be away. My wife and I don't get a ton of time together, so weekends tend to be kind of reserved for us. That's all right. doing all of the leather straps, and I'm gonna look online real quick at the more official paint scheme because I want to see what their gloves are supposed to be like. Are they supposed to be like metal, like they're wearing gauntlets, or are they supposed to be like leather? So let's find out. That will dictate what I'm doing. Oh, I forgot how many flippin' entries there are in the Stormcast section. Let's see. Here we go. And they are, funny enough, kind of both. Let me show you what I'm seeing. So what I'm trying to do is figure out what the gloves are supposed to look like. Let's spin her around. Okay, so it's kind of one color, and they kind of go metal with it. Okay. So I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do a leather color, my brown, for the part that covers the wrist, and then keep the teal on the gloves. Make it match the armor like they did. Sweet. It's just good to have a plan. Plus, I think brown on this teal looks super good. Yeah. Easy peasy. South Texas represent. Nice. I'm from San Antonio myself. I don't miss it one bit, but by golly, I'm proud of it. Let's see. Was born in Galveston, Texas. Nice. The only thing that makes me want to go back to Texas is if you've ever listened to the podcast called the Ever Chosen Podcast, there's a bunch of guys who are making their own like Masters circuit down there, and it just sounds awesome. So it's just a very AOS focused group, and they sound really cool. Okay. Let's do a quick once over. I think we got everything but our hair. Been to San Antonio a bunch of times for marching band events. Yeah, it's cool. It's the most boring city in Texas. It's just kind of there. They got the Riverwalk, they got food, and Nyosa, which is a fantastic event to go to. kind of cool. So basically, it's NIOSA is an acronym for Night in Old San Antonio. And imagine if your town or your city's, leadership or like that, your council members all got together and said, "What if, for no reason, we just had a huge ass party?" And that's exactly what Night in Old San Antonio is. It's just a party. All the food vendors come out. It's like a celebration of different cultures. There's a Scottish people playing bagpipes. You got the greater Asia community, all different subcultures, like, Koreans and people from Taiwan and Chinese, that kind of stuff, all with their foods and that kind of stuff. It's a great time. San Antonio has a strong Warhammer community after Warhammer Store went under new management. Oh, that's cool. Cody the Bear question: do you know anyone that wants a Nurgle lot? Some of it's painted, most of it's new in box. Well, if anyone wants that, reach out to Cody the Bear. Personally, I'm good. I'm drowning in work, bro. I really am. That's the whole point of this week, is like just kind of unbury myself. Let's see. I love Nuggle, but curious about prices because I have a backlog. Yeah. Every true wargamer has a backlog. That's not true. That's gatekeeping. Let's see. So I'm just going to rant about... So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to rant about how broken Slaanesh is, so that when Jack inevitably wins tonight, I can be like, see, I told you. I can point to this video that's already been recorded. No, I'm not going to do that, but I'm very excited for the kind of list that Jack's been coming up with. He's got 2 Keeper of Secrets, the non-named ones, and then there's a whole lot of Demonettes and some other stuff mixed in. But he's using the battalions, so it's a 2-drop army, which is just brutal. Like, he's going to be on you, in your face, right away, and it just, yeah. It blows my mind how fast they're going to be able to go. That was always the thing with Beasts of Chaos, is like, you had to take some pretty suboptimal units to be able to get that 1 drop. But they do not necessarily. Let's see. That's how cool the backlog is real. Like 3 armies new in box. Oh, oh. I love it. Surprised to see you with Stormcast. Fell deep into Stormcast rabbit hole. Ended up with nearly 3K of Vanguard. Loving how they run. That's awesome. So I had Stormcast before. Let me turn that music down just a smidge. I had Stormcast before, and I went with Hallowed Knights. This is like back with their second book where they didn't have Storm Hosts. Well, you could, but they had to be like you had to take like these weird battalions, and that was the Storm Hosts, and they were terrible. And part of it was I like the Hallowed Knights lore-wise. They just weren't very interesting to paint. And at the time, with that first wave of Stormcast Eternals, like rules-wise, they actually were very similar to my Chaos Warriors, who I were also building at the same time. And so I made the choice back then of like, I'm going to get rid of the Stormcast and just keep the Chaos Warriors. But I got this at a Screaming deal, and then I also got some Vanguard stuff at a Screaming deal today that I ordered online. And so I went from no Stormcast to 4,000 points of Stormcast in no time. And honestly, since I mixed up the color scheme, like so the last owner of the other lot was painting Hallowed Knight, so I just kind of just kept it going. But now that I'm painting a scheme that I'm interested in personally, like I am just loving it. I'm having an absolute blast painting these guys. I don't really like these specific models, the Balllistas, but yeah, on the whole, these guys have been an absolute blast to paint. I think it's because I'm fairly good at painting white, and I really like the teal. Like, it just kind of makes things pop. Let's see. Running is all the Vanguard do. See Black Talon. Yes. Yeah, if you want to see some intense Stormcast running action, go read Black Talon. It's a good majority of that book. It was a good read. It wasn't anything magnificent like that. I do recommend it if you like Stormcast and Hammers of Sigmar specifically. But it's not exactly like Pride and Prejudice, you know? Let's see. Let's see. Tabletop experience. Speaking of backlogs, need to work on my 7-year-old Zombie Princess Flesh Eater Quartz army. That's a mouthful. And then work on getting at least primed and a little bit paint on there. Right on. Cody says, love music choice. Yay, thank you. Just wanted something that was nice and chill, just to kind of fill in the dead space, you know? I always feel awkward when I'm these kind of live shows where I'm not like reviewing anything or reading any articles and there's a little bit of silence. Because you know, if you go to a game store and you paint with your friends, there's times where it's awkwardly silent, where everyone's just kind of like, thinking about life. And that is the simulate that. Jayville, hey 2+ stuff. I know it's kind of off subject, but I have a local gaming group who's really into 40k, but really doesn't like AOS. They feel betrayed about the whole Tomb Kings and Bretts not existing anymore. Honestly, you can't make someone like something. Sorry to hear that, man. That's a real bummer. There are still several of those folks who just can't let it go. Any tips on getting them to our side? if you or any of them play demons, it's really easy to be like, hey, you already have everything you need. Why don't you just try the game? You know what I mean? And kind of running through a demo that way. That's a pretty fantastic way. Yeah, that's hard. You can't make someone subscribe to your definition of fun, right? And if they're really that angry about stuff, they're just going to be that way. So I would just say, get real with a conversation and be like, hey, I really like this game. I would really like if you guys would just try it with me. Yeah. I mean, I just think communication is generally the way to do it. And then just put the call out and just ask if you can find anyone else who likes AOS. Show those people that there are some other people having fun, and they will naturally be like, well, I don't know, maybe it ain't so bad. I've seen that happen a lot too. Like, people will tell me, I'll be like, hey, you guys want to play AOS? And I'm like, no, AOS is dumb. Okay, fine, and I walk away. But then those same people see me having fun with a totally other person who's unrelated to this entire topic, and then they get interested because now they're missing out. And that's, I don't know, that's probably my best solution for you, is just find someone who does want to have fun and make them wish they were there. Let's see. I'm about ready to start doing some washes. If my assumption when I make those suggestions is that they're not super upset with the setting, but they're more upset with GW as a company for destroying those precious factions that were rarely played. Tomb King's one I get more than Bretonnians, I'll be honest with you, but let's see. One day just striding in full cosplay. I like that. You get bonus points if you cosplay as a demonette or what do you call them? Witch elf. They all dug through their collections and knocked dust off. Yeah, exactly. I shake my Tomb King's dust on my models off at you, so it's fine. I know people playing them. Actually, when AOS first dropped, like that time in between the Grand Alliance books or like that, like I was about to pick up a Tomb King's army, like, because I was like, oh, that's the kind of death I want to do. So I was kind of bummed, but I understand, like, I don't have the same emotional attachment that people do because I wasn't around for fantasy battles. So on that end, I try to be very respectful. Like, you know, this is important to somebody, and on the same token, it's been 3 years. So to say, like, you won't even hear someone out when they say this is a lot of fun is just absurd to me. Let's see. Muted? No, I'm not muted. I had a paintbrush in my mouth as I was trying to get one cleaned off. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's a tough one to try and convince people. I don't know. I think about this when I think about any other miniatures game, right? Like if you're think about like trying to get someone to play, I don't know, War Machine Hordes or which other one? Oh, what's the one? I don't know. I can't. It's by a company Weird. I can't think of the name of the game, but I'm just trying to get people to play other games because GW is just banging on all cylinders right now. It's supposed to be so hard to compete. People want to play Brats, just pick up a start collecting box for Flesh Eater Quartz. Ooh, that's funny. Yeah, someone asked me the other day if I would like let them play as like, let them take their Bretonnian models and play as Flesh Eater Quartz, like use the battle tone. I was like, yes, absolutely. That sounds awesome. Malifaux, thank you. That's what I was thinking of. Sorry, I looked up at the screen. Herd Infinity is a great game. Yeah, I've played it. It's very crunchy with the rules. Like, there's just a lot to remember. I found myself never being able to reach that point where, you know, like there's this point where, you know, rules are just a whole lot to swallow. You're learning a lot all at once when you start playing a new game. And then after a little while, you get comfortable with it, and that's when you can start doing fun stuff like narratives, and you know, you can you're comfortable with the rules enough to start using them in a way to tell a story. I see people doing that with Infinity, but for me personally, I was always so overwhelmed by the sheer number of rules and special rules and all that kind of stuff. I never reached the point where I was like, my brain could relax enough to be like, and now we're having fun. You're right. You know, I saw all the parts to fun having, but it was too much for me. It was a little bit of an overload. A group at my game store that isn't official Warhammer trying to get me into Infinity, but I love Warhammer lore. Yeah, my thing is also, the guys who do Infinity do metal models. I hate the metal models. Hate them. Let's see. Tell them I don't mind a bunch of rules. There's someone there to teach me. Yeah, it's just so like in Infinity, you can, like, for example, like there used to be in fantasy battles in 40k, it's like you can pay extra points and take this item and it makes you invisible. Like, totally, I understand that. But in Infinity, there's like 3 different kinds of invisibility, and so like every special rule that you can pay for has those things. Whereas like multiple tiers, there's just a lot. There's just a whole lot. I'm sure it is a very fun game. It has a strong fan base. People love that game. That's awesome. Let's see. Christian, in truth, I'd like to see more of the Flesh Eater Court madness on model, like these horrible creatures trying to dress up as knights and lords. Absolutely, yeah. I really would. That's kind of one thing I was kind of hoping they would do when they came out with the, was he the Archregent? I wanted more shreds of humanity on him. But I guess he's supposed, like, his backstory is that he's like the most evolved of them, so, or devolved of them, I should say. Okay. Drive safe. So, let's see. I would love some kind of kill team player versus environment mission, if that's even possible. It actually is. If you have never seen it, you should really go check out. The rules are free. The Mantic Games came out with a Walking Dead board game, which is actually a full miniatures game. It's not just a board game. And so you and your opponent are trying to fight over each other, but at the same time, there are zombies just meandering around, and it gives you ways of controlling them totally external from any player. So basically what I'm saying is if you just did, you dropped your opponent and you just played versus the zombies, that is technically player versus environment. So that kind of stuff is rad. So I would check out that. I think the rules are free online. Yeah, the idea is like you have your side, your opponent's side, you're trying to fight for resources and stuff like that. And in the middle of the board, meandering around, are the zombies who react to things like sound. At one point, I was actually going to start covering that game, but frankly, I lost interest in Walking Dead. The game seems super legit. It just was stuff like that when it's attached to a franchise, for the same reason that I'm not going to cover like X-Wing. You know what I mean? It just, the lifeblood of that community thrives on the movies and the shows, and when that dries up or changes in a way that I don't have an interest in, it sucks my joy out of it. So let's see. AOS, but it's just wandering monsters. Yeah, I mean, and honestly, like, narrative missions, and I should probably do this at some point, but a narrative mission where you're trying to move through a graveyard and survive, basically, I think would be super, super cool. I think it's totally doable with the help of rules like that from Mantic. Let's see. I don't like Walking Dead much, but maybe making something with Wandering Poxwalkers would be cool. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the idea in the Walking Dead game, if I remember correctly, and if you actually play it, don't quote me on this, but all of your actions make a level of noise, and kind of that noise equates to a range. So, like, you know, this kind of move alerts all zombies in 6 inches, whereas firing a gun, which is uber loud, you know, alerts every zombie on the board, and that kind of thing. So you're trying to, movement is the name of the game, and you're trying to weave in between zombies, and they all have a randomly determined movement and that kind of stuff too. So it was a cool idea. Let's see. Kill team narrative mission, wandering monsters. Victory point based on number of monsters you kill and maybe getting an objective. No victory points for killing opponent, but you can do that to make it harder for them to get kills. Yeah, totally. That'd be neat. Grab Reichland Flesh Shade. Here we go. Yes, I'm all about mission types, and then that seems like something that'd be easy to bolt on to Warcry as well on that kind of small game level. Which, yeah, I mean, I shared a picture on Twitter. I am actually getting super excited for Warcry. There was a someone snagged a pic of the game board, and it is looking pretty sweet. Warcry is getting think I figured it out. Properties with an emphasis on user-generated lore are really gripping because it is based on the user, not the producer. Yeah, part of it is too is like, I've heard this actually was more from a podcast for 40K, Independent Characters, which I really love that podcast to listen to it, even though I don't play 40K. But the way he described it, and I love this, is that, you know, the worlds that Games Workshop creates, they're not stories that you take control of. They are settings that you explore, right? That's why you can have inconsistent things happening, like even though these people don't use magic, but this random thing happens and now all of a sudden they have magic, that kind of stuff. Like it's a setting, it's not a restrictive story that's meant to bind you. And so I think when you talk about Walking Dead and all the characters are named characters from the show, you're forcing that specific narrative, whereas in AOS, obviously, it's a setting. You can have any realm, any fight, any combatant, that kind of stuff. I think that's, to me personally, that's why it succeeds. So, do we have any information on the mechanics of Warcry? Nope, not a single thing. Not a single thing. We've only seen some of the model, and that's honestly, I know they're going to be talking more about it in detail when it gets time for it to be released. But I'm a little bummed that they haven't really shared any information as to how the game works. I'm not nervous about it, but it's just kind of frustrating that we've had this much, like, we know it's coming. And, you know, it's one of those things like, hype expires. It is a hard resource to, you know, once people lose interest, it's hard to get them pumped again. So, I don't know. Cody the Bear, my opinion of GW is a bit two-faced. They give us great models, but it never seems to be the ones with the biggest demand. And they give us rules. They have enough to allow the player to make their own narrative, which is great, but by themselves, the rules aren't enough by themselves. And that's why you end up with so much addendum. Gotta think about that one. That was a mouthful. I would say they definitely, with Sam Pearson on staff, gotten better at the rules part. I'll be honest with that. Since he started working, well, his first book that came out was the Beast of Chaos book. And from that point forward, that's been a tremendous increase in clarity and I'd almost say lore focus on the rule end. What would it need to be more Mordheim? Mordheim. I don't actually want Mordheim back. Mordheim was just a ton of bookkeeping. I remember I have fond memories of it, but I think games have just evolved to a point where something a little less crunchy would probably do better for them. Right now is putting down the initial coats of Ulthuan Gray. Gonna start brightening all this stuff back up. Talek, Doug, what's up? Not much, just painting up some Stormcast. Let's see. Trying to keep up with the chat here. Titanicus looked great and got loads of promo, but it's a dead game within my store. Yeah, I've never seen anyone play Titanicus out in the wild. That's another one where I had really considered jumping in. But the price point is steep, to say the least, to be as gracious as possible. It's steep and I don't know. Yeah, it didn't have the same appeal to me. Like, I mean, actually, one of the selling points for me personally was that it's set in Horus Heresy, because I love the Horus Heresy stuff. But then right as they were coming out with all of that, it kind of seemed like Black Library was like moving on from the Horus Heresy, which is fine because those authors have been writing that same story arcs for forever, feels like. I'm sure they're excited to move on. Titanicus, but why? And that's honestly what came down to the that was honestly the question. Tell you what I'm really actually excited for is the General's Handbook preview that we got mentioned that they're coming out with explicit rules for, or specific rules for 1,000 point games. And I am ecstatic about that. Because honestly, even with the new place, like once I got the table set up and all the lights and junk, it's still pretty tight to record battle reports here. But if I could do it on a smaller table, and still get a full game, that would be amazing. Let's see. Okay, there's one guy. It's the only thing about this, the Ulthuan Gray, even though it's going over Celestar Gray, it still requires 2 coats minimum. Usually it's just 2 coats. Let's see. Can't wait to hear Duncan say 1 thick coat with this contrast paint and see him throw up a little bit in his mouth. That's funny. Yeah, when they first showed what contrast was, I had this brief moment of being like, oh, that's not that impressive. But then when we actually started seeing results, and I posted a video on, I think I shared it on Facebook, but there's a podcast in the UK called 2Ps, I think that's what they're called. One of their hosts got a chance to sit down with those paints and like at Ormerfest, and he basically just like worked through them. And he painted a Poxwalker using just a few of them, and it looked great. You know, I'm not convinced that they're right for every model. Like the Space Marines we've seen, like the Power Armor, those big smooth surfaces, I'm not impressed, to be honest with you. But anything organic where it has a lot of texture and crevices to kind of sink into, where that the shade function of it can really like demonstrate itself, that's where I think that stuff shines. which is great because honestly, when you think about the really horde-based armies, a lot of that stuff is organics, right? You got your Tyranids, your Skaven, Flesh Eater Courts. So yeah, I gave it a resounding meh at first, and then over time I was like, actually, that's super cool. Alright. Coming along. The nice thing is that once the white is done, this really does. The rest of the scheme is pretty much over with. Well, let's see. Tylik Doug, how do you feel about Fireslayer armies getting switched from a horde army to an elite army? Is this one more thematic? It doesn't feel any less thematic. I don't feel like when I read the Battle Tome, because I've owned both of them, I don't feel like either one of them noted on them being endless hordes or, you know what I mean, super elite warriors, nothing like that. It just didn't use language based on numbers to describe the forces. It was more like their intensity. As far as what do I think about them, honestly, so I bought a bunch of Fireslayers, and I played that army for a while. I actually painted up the army you see on Rerolling Ones, the Battle Report channel, is mine. I painted those up, and I got them off to Jack, who paid me with Iron Jaws, which then, of course, I painted up and gave right back to him. Anyway, so I did paint them. I did play them with the old rules for a little bit. What I will say is just watching Brent from Rerolling Ones play with those models that I had already played with, all the units that I already had experience with, I will say they look like they're a lot more fun. Like, I still don't have like Seller's Remorse or like that, but they look like a much better time than I was playing them, because honestly, like, you didn't have to play them this way, but the thing that the Fireslayers used to be extremely good at, we used to take a big horde of Berserkers and just sit on an objective and let your opponent pull their hair out. And if you know me, and you watch the channel, you know that I would rather lose than my opponent not have the utmost fun time. That's just who I am. Like I've thrown games and been like, you know what? I'm just going to say that you won. Let's go get a beer and hang out. It's just not important to me. And so the reason I bring that up is because some armies just don't, like their win condition, like the thing that they're good at, just honestly, I don't find fun. I don't like playing Legions of Nagash because for the same reason. I'm just going to sit here next to my gravesite and I'll let you kill, I'll waste your time on a bunch of skeletons. You know what I mean? While Nagash shoots you in the face with a whole bunch of magic. That kind of stuff. Or Nurgle, where you can take the big blobs of plague bears and make them like minus bajillion to hit. You know, it's just grindy stuff like that wins tournaments. It doesn't win friends. So that's what I think they used to be more like. But now with, you know, they made them, they're just as mobile as they were before. But now their aggression is turned up to 11. They're better in melee. Their shooting took a hit, but it's still there. Yeah, I just generally think they walked away as a more fun army to play against. They're more engaging. Having fewer models, I think, is good, and the reason I say that is because, man, they didn't add anything new to the army, so there's still just a whole lot of like sameness across all their units. So I think necessitating fewer of them to be on the tabletop certainly helps. That's my opinion. I didn't actually look up to see like what I painted for rerolling ones, that like what the faction that I traded off, what that point value is now. But no one's complained, so I'm assuming it's still pretty good. I think with the old book I had about 1,500 points. Like under the old book's points values. But yeah. Question, you know anything about Iron Jaws in tournament play? I went to a few and didn't see any boys. Yeah, that's pretty common. There's a fantastic, I think he won Best Destruction with ITC up here locally. He plays Iron Jaws. He also never touches boys, really. He focuses all on Gore-Gruntas and Brutes. Brutes and Gore-Gruntas. So it's just, as far as when I was playing them, again, talking about an army that I gave to Jack, when I was playing them, I focused on Ard Boys because I just like hordes of infantry. And to me, that's what orcs are, right? They're just teeming masses of green guys screaming. But no, the Gore-Gruntas are fantastic when it comes to running up and grabbing objectives and burning them and that kind of stuff, depending on the mission. So they were certainly his number one choice. But beyond that observation, I honestly don't know much about Iron Jaws in competitive play. I generally find competitive stuff hard to keep up with for the most part. Yeah, Ard Boys are pretty sweet. There's several battalions that they fit into and that kind of stuff, so yeah. Because Gorgons are filth when you run them in Gore Fist. It's one of those battalions. I'm not sure at that one. I don't have my book near me. Guaranteeing them a first turn charge. That's exactly what he did, yeah. Yeah, when you can... I'm trying to find a way to do something similar with my Paladors and junk like that as far as buffing up their speed to high heaven. But yeah, the idea is you just, when you have that many wounds and attacks, and they're not super killy, but when there's that much beef inside your grill at the start of the game, round one, and you have to fight through them or fly over them or whatever you can do to actually start playing the game, meaning be on objectives, it's tough. Let's see, I'm okay with it because boy's actually a model that I don't like. So if I don't need him, I'm happy. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, you don't need them. I mean, just straight up, like, you don't need them, but they're a cool thing to have in your toolbox because, oh man, I got some paint on her face. That's okay. Because sometimes you just need bodies. But I understand that they're not everyone's cup of tea. I was certainly surprised when they kept that model going. They used to be black orcs in fantasy battles. For sure. You know what? It just got on the bridge of her nose, so that's probably going to be covered up with flesh tone here in a second anyway. It doesn't matter. And do everything in my power to get beef in my grill. That's funny. Yeah, I'm trying to come up with ways to use Paladors effectively because of the various deals and trades that I've made to get all kinds of Stormcast. I'm going to end up with a whole bunch of Vanguard stuff, which I'm very excited about. As much as I enjoy these Sacrosanct Chamber guys, Vanguard's what I've wanted to do for quite some time. And I'm going to hop on Forward World at some point and grab the crazy screaming Viking heads that they have for Stormcast. I need to find a way to model it so that one of the Palador riders is a woman. I want to mix it up. It's just, with the exception of the Knight Zephyros, Stormcast was a boys' club until Sacrosanct Chamber. Let's see, I ended up with 12 Paladors, currently running 2 squads of 6, having a blast. Sweet. Now, Christian, that's exactly what I was thinking of doing. Do you run them forward up front, or do you keep them in the back as like objective grabbers? I'm kind of curious about that. Mogwai Man, Bone Splitters are struggling. I'm always playing on hard mode. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. They had their day in the sun when they first came out. Not just with the Cunning Ruck, but also just being 2 wound models with a 6-up forever save. You know, it's not amazing, I understand that, but, you know, they're in a rough spot. I totally get that. Grab... Katie and Fleshtown. Here we go. Let me know on how you plan on feminizing your Vanguard. I want to do that with the Lord Aquilor. Yeah, I don't have a solid plan yet. Destruction right now is the worst Grand Alliance. In terms of competitive play, yeah, I would probably agree with that. I'm still kind of, you know, it's hard when books like Gloomspite Gets come out, and the reason I say it's hard is because, like, it came out, and people immediately like, oh, there's some really cool stuff here. The problem is, you know, when you have blocks of 60 dudes in a unit, it takes forever to really feel the effects of a faction or a Grand Alliance improving. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, the book's out, but for people to get to a happy standard, whatever that means for them, for painting and that kind of stuff, and then start showing up at events, like, ugh, it takes forever. That being said, even that one battle tome won't turn around the entire Grand Alliance, so I still think that you are right there in the roughest place. Yeah, I will agree that destruction start collecting boxes are not where they need to be. Forgive the silence for 1 second. I'm just trying to paint this guy's face without butchering it too much. don't usually use Bugman's Glow as a base. Typically I use it, use Rakarth Flesh and then do Cadian Flesh Tone over that. So this isn't quite my favorite, but it's good to practice on a unit that I'm not particularly fond of. Successful Geek, I head to bed. Have a good night, my friend. Oh, he looks fine. I mean, he's ugly, but that's not my fault. That's the sculpting right there. He's just meant to look like a mean dude. He's gonna wreck you. Okay. Can't wait to see Paint Celestin Prime. He's so dope. Yeah, he's actually next on my list once these two units are all done. Basically what I do is I knock out a few bigger units and then I treat myself with a hero. You know, because it's like a smaller project, get to crank it out fast, spend a little more time on details. So he's my treat for getting the Balllistas done. Okay. Looking pretty good. Not a fan of the engineers. Yeah. They aren't shaping up to be my favorite either. So before, the ones who I can tell came from the standalone kit, their faces just have a lot more depth to them. And it makes them far better to paint. Yeah, that guy came from the Soul Wars set. He looks so good. Especially with their uncovered beefy arms. Welcome to the mortal realms where everyone's always flexing. There's almost no time to fight for your survival with all the flexing. There are no men, there are no women, there are only beefcakes. Everyone's just like doing the Mr. Universe pose or like that. Let's see. Did answer your further question. Swole. Oh, sorry. Must have lost. People were chatting. Christian, I only played 2 games so far, but I found them pretty strong. Just smash straight in due to their great movement and small base size. You can get a decent amount of deal. Oh, yeah. She used Crash from Headlong. That's awesome. So we gotta do her hair. Let's see. Morning, 3 a.m. here. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness, that's terrible. Is her hair flexing also? Yeah, you see that extreme, almost right angle in her ponytail? It's like, all I talk about is Stormcast CrossFit. I just imagine someone being like, help, we need Sigmar's warriors, and just responding, yeah, it's mostly diet, as they're like flexing their arms. No, we're all gonna die. Working out's really just a hobby. I'm not even paying attention. Let's see. Juan says, hey Doug, which army are you currently playing? I haven't actually played in quite a while. I need to get back into playing games, but when I do so, I will be playing Stormcast for a little bit. Because it will be painted gloriously. I am super curious what's going to happen to the ballista once the General's Handbook, you know, I'm assuming, I sure hope it adjusts the points. I'm just doing one more layer of Cadian flesh tone on this guy's bald forehead to make sure it really pops, so everyone understands he is in fact bald. Okay. Let's see. Don't forget Sigmar's hair salon. There's two of them. They got spy to their for lifting weights. Yeah. Well, why do you hate Stormcast? Oh, shootcast in general? Yeah. Yeah, I totally understand that. That'll put a bad taste in anyone's mouth. Let's see, we're going to have her have some black hair. Raptors are where it's at for the Vanguard, though. My Raptor Prime killed Bloodthirster in close combat. Vanguard Raptors. Oh, the shooters, that's right, yes. Yeah. Yeah, it seems like everything is about running and being fast until all of a sudden the big guy with the giant gun is the one that lays down the law. That's kind of how I understand Vanguard to be. Juan, you still own KO? Yep, they're in the background. I painted them up, really enjoyed them, but have a real rough time playing with them, so they're just going to hang out on the shelf for a bit until the new Battle Tome comes out. It's one of those things, like, it's kind of like, I enjoyed painting them so stinking much that I don't want to get rid of them. Because I want to enjoy them. I just had no fun. So I'm just going to hold on to them, and if the next Battle Tome that they get, which I'm hoping at some point will be this year, comes out and they just still don't scratch the itch, I'm just going to sell them off. They look fantastic. It'll make someone really, really happy. Or if when it gets close to Nova I find that I need some more funds, they will be sold off. Flex cast Turnals. What are the most competitive shooting armies besides Stormcast? Shooting. Free People is amazing. If you let Free People stay in a clump when they can get all their synergies off, because a lot of their synergies are based on, like, you get this cool bonus to shooting, but you won't be able to move or charge or something like that. Like, we're kind of like that kind of a trade-off. You have to stand and shoot your gun. If they are allowed to do that, they will wreck your day. That's the biggest one. Honestly, like, KO guns, everything hits on 4, and there's no real way to modify that a whole lot. So they're great guns. They just they rarely hit. I think they just kind of overestimated the damage potential. And then they came out with 2nd edition, which has rules like, what's it called? Look out, sir. I don't know why that was... How long did it work? Look out, sir made it pretty rough. GW won't nerf their poster boys. I'm sure that they'll still be great, but they can still reel it in enough to make it fun for everybody. And that's all I hope for. They won't nerf their poster boys, but they will... I do have faith that they will move things around so that you buy other stuff for the poster boys rather than just the ballista. Going back right now and grabbing some minor details here with silver. Do you think this will get a battle tome? If they don't get their own, they'll certainly, I think, be rolled into something else. Like merging KO and Dispossessed is kind of what I want, to be honest with you. I just don't think their aesthetics are so vastly different that they would be absolutely incompatible. And take back the airships where they used to be. Paladins need love. Paladins. Oh, the other, yeah. But that's where you get into that same situation where it's like, how much love do the Paladins need versus the Evocators just being a huge problem? Because I used to use Retributors quite a bit. And had a pretty good success. Now, admittedly, that was several army releases ago, and that makes everything age pretty poorly, but... And that's kind of the problem with making one thing just so good. It's just like, sucks the wind out of your sails when it comes to playing literally anything else. Peace out, friends. Peace out, Cody. It's the same reason as I was trying to find information about how to use Paladors effectively, like the Griff Charger riders. And I had a hard time finding information. I started asking, Jack, because he plays shootcast, but he had experimented with just about everything before he settled on his shootcast list. He's in, the way he put it was just like, it's hard because they're at the exact same point level as evocators. 3 Palladors is the same as 5 evocators. It's just like, whoa, it's true. That is some stiff competition. Hey, so how excited are you that there is much new lore to talk about with Forbidden Power and new battle tomes? I am very, very excited. I am very overwhelmed, which is why I'm taking this week to really crank out an army and that kind of stuff. So yeah. Oren, still no wet palette, Doug? Come on, it makes a difference. Just do it. I bought a wet palette from Hobby Lobby and it was terrible, and just haven't cared enough to try anything else. I'm gonna be super honest. Let's see. Lost my skin color for a second. Just bought one from Master Son. Happy Camper. Nice. Pardon the silence. I'm just grabbing these eyes real quick. And her face. Question: can anyone here recommend good corn battalions? If so, what do they do? I'm going to say that I'm not hyper familiar with all the corn battalions. Core Pilgrims. Is that so great? Yeah, Brass Stampede I've heard a lot of great things about. That is just a ton of blood crushers over there. Which I'm into. There's actually one thing I want to do. It occurred to me the other night that like Stormcast have several cavalry options. They have Dracolines, they have whatever the Evocator Eye, the big cats, and then they also have Palladors. However, one of those 3 options can be made an entire army out of. You can do the entire army with Dracolines, with their battalions, but you can't do it with any of the others. I was like, oh, that's a bummer. Yeah. Let's see. It's a magic denial and get an extra attack for everyone. Cool. Does AOS have a hammer and anvil style army? Stormcast can definitely do that. What else? Seraphon. Honestly, when it comes down to the hammer anvil stuff, that just requires any of the armies with a big pool of models to draw from. Stormcast, Seraphon, or some other ones that have really big pools of models. Legions into Gash can do that. I mean, technically anything can be in a hammer and anvil, but oh, Warren just said that. I just popped up on my chat. Yeah, anything can. It's just a matter of you know, if you want options on which units are your hammer and which ones are your anvil, then looking at some of the bigger factions are not a bad idea. Okay, so all I need left is a white scar. And this will just top off the white. Might actually be able to have these guys all kinds of done. Maybe not the Ever-Chosen. Yeah, Ever-Chosen, that'd be... You're lucky if you have an army, never mind an anvil and hammer. That would require 2 units, and they're too expensive to have 2 units on the same table. Define hammer and anvil. So hammer anvil is a strategy, and someone correct me if I butcher this, but it's my understanding. It's talked about a lot during fantasy battles. If you have 2 units, right? You basically what you're doing is the hammer does damage, the anvil receives it. Okay. And so you could do a few things. Yeah, you have your big blob of Skaven, for example, that run up, and clan rats are designed, they're born and bred just to take a punch to the face. That's all they do. And all your other units are designed to punch back. But I mean, it kind of falls apart just because, just like Ryan said, any unit can be a hammer, and almost anyone can be an anvil. Certainly, any unit can be an anvil because everyone can get hit. Being a hammer is different in the sense of some units are just better than others at giving damage. If your hammer unit is liberators, something's gone terribly wrong. They just, on average, don't do a whole lot of damage, but... Dwarves have an anvil, but no hammer. It's tactic, not strategy. Let's see. Okay. Getting my Temple Guard blue together for my highlights. Which armies have great cavalry? I'm going to say Corn Blood Crushers. I like them. Dracolines are great from Stormcast. The name for it is a Distraction Carnifex, in honor of the unit in 40k that embodies being scary but doing little. And so your opponent falls for the trap of hitting the Distraction Carnifex. Yeah, there are quite a few good cavalry units. Yeah, if you have any suggestions, Chaos Knights are solid. I will say that. Yeah, I used to run them with my Slaves to Darkness. I wouldn't say that they were like MVP every game or anything like that, but they do some work. Okay. Yeah, getting into the wargaming wording, right? Our little vocabulary we have going on is always fun when someone's like, "What's a distraction card effects?" Boar boys suck. Do they suck? I'm trying to remember. I used to run boar boys. Or boar was the one that I'm trying to remember which ones I had. The ones that could retreat and charge. I like those ones. But yeah, I think to me, the real takeaway from the idea of hammers and anvils is just the giving every unit that you put on the table a role is kind of the biggest thing. You know, I want these guys? These guys are going to get in the enemy's way. These guys are going to counterpunch, that kind of stuff. see. I'm doing right now is just going through and doing the last little bit of highlight with the teal, covering up all my happy little mistakes that I made earlier. Make everyone look good. Been playing 40k for a while. Are they new? Maniacs are an alternate build for the Boar Boy kit. Yeah, so with Iron Jaws, Bone Splitters, with all their kits, you can build the basic boy or like basically an elite version, which they call the Maniac. So it's the elite cav. Although elite's kind of in air quotes because it's Bone Splitters. Okay. The only problem with priming these guys blue is that, like, it's just an optical effect, but, like, you don't see how the model really looks until you paint the base something else. Just like blue overload. It's funny, when I paint the bases of these guys, they get them textured or covered up or whatever, you know, the teal pops way more. It's just like less visual noise. And that's when they go from pretty cool to rad. Bone Splitters are kind of glass cannons, more just glass. Yeah, they don't, they have some interesting tricks, but they do suffer from the game kind of evolving around them. You know, like there's some battle times, like I think KO is kind of that same bucket where it's just like, you don't do the thing you want to be doing, which is just brutality, getting them in there, being mean, as well as some others. Okay. Let's get some basing done. Here it is. Sorry about the noise. Got some Sterling Battlemire hoop. I just tipped immediately over. My friend made the mistake of getting into armies with outdated battle tomes. Tzeentch, Legion of Gash. Feel bad walking through games. I feel like Tzeentch can hold their own. Depends on what kind of Tzeentch they're building. I will say that. Gitz bought the battle tome off me. I think it'll be a bit more of a good time. Yeah, Gitz is a great time. It's just very difficult to get into the army because there's just not a great onboarding point besides Loon Curse, which I'm assuming he probably grabbed from what you said earlier that you had access to it. But he's got demons. Yeah. I've had a lot of success with Tzeentch in doing the mortal stuff, and I mean Slaves to Darkness with Tzeentch keyword. Because people, when they see the Destiny dice, they always think of like magic and that kind of stuff, but man, long bomb charge with 2 D6 from your Destiny dice pool, hard to go wrong. Okay, there's him. Archaon Tzeentch is funny. Oh, I never thought about that. I'm sure somebody who's better at the game has thought about that, but I'm actually curious if whenever they redo Archaon, or Ever Chosen, or whatever they choose to do with that book, if they're ever going to give him the Hedonites keyword, because in the new Slaanesh book, a lot of stuff keys off of Hedonites instead of Slaanesh. But then part of me is like, well, if they do that, then they should give them like Rotbringers and that kind of stuff. And that's just not... I don't see that happening. You know, because they want to maintain some in-faction bonuses, I'm sure. I don't know. I remember when they redid the War Scrolls for 2nd edition, and I was positive that they were going to put Ever Chosen as a keyword that Slaves to Darkness user could choose, and they didn't, and I was devastated. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I got into a spat about whether you have to re-roll Destiny dice with my Bloodsecrator's range. My understanding is that he would, but I, as the Khorne player, would allow him to choose not to do that then. But my understanding is, yes, he would have to roll for his Destiny dice again. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Because when you use Destiny dice, that counts as the value of your roll. So if there's a reroll mechanic in play, he would have to The answer was an obvious yes. That's funny. Ah, that's a bummer when people act like turds over a game. If you say he's tried multiple battle tomes, maybe he just needs to settle with one and really learn it. I mean, that's my issue, but I'm also not argumentative. If someone's like, you can't do that, or you have to reroll or whatever, I just... Oh, okay. I just generally assume that I'm the one who's making a mistake. Let's see. So after I'm done with my Slaanesh, I'm working on Fire Slayers. Recently grown to love the Dwarden with the upcoming mercenary rules. I'm hoping that I can take Magmadroth in my Slaanesh force. That'd be cool. Question: is it true that a Herald of Tzeentch can cast another spell on a roll of a 9+? Herald of Tzeentch, a basic Herald? Doesn't sound familiar. Let me look it up. I'm actually on the GW page right now. Let's look it up together. I don't think there's anything like that in their allegiance abilities. Samples. We need a Herald's rules would be here. Nope. Herald. This would be the same. It would be the same for him. Let's see. No. Kenzie, I have no idea what he was referring to. Once per game, he can roll 3 dice in the attempt instead of 2. But I don't think... I mean, unless there's there might be... You know, don't take what I say as gospel. There might be a... yeah, okay, it's tap, so that's in the Tzeentch Army book. So it might have been something. I find that this is going to sound like a very dumb statement, but that the rules are the hardest part of AOS. By that I simply mean it's really easy when people feel like, oh yeah, I got this, I understand. So it's like, it's not that the rules are complicated, it's that getting people into a headspace where they might be wrong and are ready to receive correction is sometimes hard. Because some people just think they find their joy in winning. And I don't have anything against that. That's not me. Let's see. Just feel bad that I know his rules better than him. That happens sometimes, especially when you have newer players or people that army hop. Like the first event that I went to, several times against a Legion player. He was this really nice guy. Really had a great time. Turns out he did not have fun. playing against his next opponent. But yeah, the entire time he was playing Legions of Gash, and I just kept saying, I don't think it works that way. I don't think it works that way. I read that book. And we had this back and forth, and it just got to be the point where it got to be too much to keep harping on him, so I just let stuff go because I was not invested anymore at that point. Okay, friends. It is 8 o'clock. That is my cutoff time, unfortunately. And so, let me see. Point this up. Point this back at me. Heyo. I will be back hopefully tomorrow with some new... Oh, for some reason my camera is frozen up top. That's strange. I'll be back tomorrow with some awesome stuff we could chat about. Let's see. What else have I going on? Not a whole lot. But yeah, I'll see you all. We're going to be continuing painting even more. And we'll finish up the ballistas with the basing and these guys, their bases. And we'll move on to, wait for it, Celestin Prime, the Priminator. So, and then after him, I have 5 evocators and 10 sequitors, 15 models, and we're done. So anyway, you guys have a wonderful night, and I'll catch you.